Nobody wants to spend months, if not years, building a sales funnel only to turn it on and find out that it doesn't work. Then why does every big name strategy ask you to do just that? Place your business on hold, spend months building, and take a massive risk at creating something that likely won't work, only for you to go back to the drawing board and try and figure out what went wrong or to completely start over trying to build something new. I don't know about you, but I'm not willing to do that. And honestly, you shouldn't be either. Instead, I'm going to show you how we create a sales ecosystem that guarantees your ROI, but more importantly, works while you build. Now, hey, and welcome back to the Business Real Talk. We've had such an amazing response from you all about our last episode where we detailed our DNA formula for targeting high intent motivated buyers. Now, let me be clear. That understanding of who your gold standard clients are in 2025 and beyond, and knowing how to target them is quite literally what sets the foundation of any strategy. So if you haven't listened to that episode yet, I recommend hitting pause on this one and binging it first, because once you understand it, it changes everything. And today we're talking about having a sales and client acquisition ecosystem. And honestly, this is the engine behind your growth. So let's get real. We want to start with talking about what the common misconception is in the industry. And it's that if you build the right funnel, your entire business will change. We've all seen it. And every 6 to 12 months, that one funnel we needed just happens to change. It was the SLO funnel for a while, AKA the self-liquidating offer, where you sell a micro product and then continue to upsell them until finally you get them into the offer that you wanted them to join all along. And then it was the book funnel where you sell a book for $7 to $14 or it's free with paid shipping with the intention that it builds massive authority and people do or do not read it, decide to work with you. Or it was the free guide and 50 emails after. Or in 2022, it was the free Facebook group funnel. And then the webinar funnel where you get people to a webinar, sell them into a lower mid-ticket offer or to a call. You name it. There has been thousands of different versions of this. You've probably built 1 to 10 of these yourself, and you've spent months putting all of those pieces together, whether it was you personally building all the assets, staying up late, writing dozens of emails, a sales page, and all the bells and whistles, or your team or hired contractor doing it. You know the agony of getting one of these things up and running. It's a labor of love for sure. And you practically put your business on hold in order to get there. You stop everything because this is it. So you pour yourself into it, doing every single thing necessary, ready to make it big in the end. Only to spend 3 months and tens of thousands of dollars to build it, turn it on, and surprise, surprise, it doesn't go how you planned. And you're left scratching your head wondering, what the heck happened? Or let's talk about those times you signed up for expensive programs that promise you the world to build this life-changing system or strategy, the one that the coach has used to make millions with, and you sign up for the program. You spend 6 months learning everything you need to be successful. You do everything to a T correctly, but again, when it comes to turning everything on, you're not seeing millions of dollars that that coach promised. Heck, you didn't even make back your investment. I call this blind spot building. It's when we pour our time, money, and energy into creating a single piece of the puzzle, believing it's the golden ticket to our success, only to discover too late that there was a blind spot in the system, leaving you with less than stellar results and completely lost on where to go next. And it's happening to all of us who have been in the business for any significant amount of time. And I'm guessing it's happened to you too. For years, I've heard this story told a million different ways from people who come to me exhausted, frustrated, looking for a solution. It's enough to want to bang your head against the wall. And beyond the money you've spent, you've undoubtedly spent so much time that you can actually never get back. And yes, you're committed. So, of course, you got something out of each and every one of those learning experiences. But you're also just ready to have a real working process that works now and for years to come. Am I right? So let me be the first to get real with you and tell you what you may not want to hear. The answer to your predictable, effective, and scalable success won't be found in some next best marketing funnel. In fact, funnels are often missing the necessary pieces that allow you to be successful long term. Why? Because honestly, they're linear, because they focus on one single piece of the pie, because they don't take into account all the necessary pieces that really truly create a bang out funnel. It means that you can take a storytelling course, but it's not going to solve your sales problem on its own. And you can hire a copywriter to create a banging sales page and all the funnel assets necessary, but still not see sales. And I promise you, I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer. What I want you to understand is that the problem isn't the asset you created, that thing. Whether it was a sales page, a lead magnet, the ad, any of the other hundreds of pieces you've built. It's that those pieces didn't fit together. And yes, I've seen it happen for startups and entrepreneurs and all the way to billion-dollar companies where they've gone all in on building this thing only for them to turn it on and not see results. See, when I worked in corporate, I worked for a multi-billion-dollar engineering company as a marketing director. Now, our sales team had insisted that we needed to attend this trade show in Germany and that it would be the single biggest success because everyone who was anyone in the engineering world would be there. So I spent 6 months planning it, building the content for the event, getting vendors, having our team create graphics. I mean, everything you could possibly think of. This booth was a thing of beauty. And it should be since we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on it. And our CEO insisted that we have beer, we have wine, we have beautiful tables, all the bells and whistles. So I flew to Germany to oversee the event, and the problem was that it didn't go how we had planned. The attendance was drastically lower than previous years. We had spent so much time building the event that we hadn't thought about what would happen if it didn't go as planned. Now, let's just say it was not a fun flight home. We had to scramble to make up sales that year, and we had some very long meetings with the sales and leadership team when we got back. But it taught me something so important. It's not the event, it's the ecosystem. That event alone was not the answer to our success. We should have known that. And I see it every day in businesses, building massive events, creating fancy funnels, building these big, beautiful assets that don't create an ROI because the answer isn't in the singular piece. It's in looking at the entire world of client acquisition holistically. And that's why, in order to avoid the blind spot building trap, you have to be able to take a bird's eye view. See, most people will look to solve a singular nagging problem. Gosh, I'm not getting enough clients. It must be my lead flow. So they run more ads. Everyone I speak to isn't ready to buy. It must be my messaging. So they hire a messaging strategist. Hey, my sales calls aren't closing. It must be my script. So they hire a sales coach to help them write a script. But here's the truth. You can't fix a leaky boat by patching one hole while ignoring all the others. When you build in isolation without considering how each piece fits into the greater system, you end up creating blind spots that sabotage your success. See, blind spot building happens when businesses focus so narrowly on solving one issue at a time that they miss how all the pieces actually interact. So instead of creating a cohesive, high-performing ecosystem, they're left with a disconnected asset that doesn't deliver the results they're chasing. And the cost? It's time, it's money, it's momentum, it's all down the drain. This is why you cannot just focus on fixing a singular problem. You need a bird's eye view of the entire client acquisition process. You need to be able to understand how each piece supports the others and builds towards a greater whole. Because sure, maybe your messaging needed to be tweaked a little, but you also just needed a different understanding of who your high intent buyer is. And understanding that meant not just tweaking your messaging, but also looking at your sales process to see if it's actually set up for high intent buying style. Hint, hint, this is what I shared with you in the last week's episode. Now, imagine trying to solve this puzzle by looking at just one piece at a time. You're sitting there, you're only getting one puzzle piece at a time. You might eventually try and get a couple pieces together, but without seeing the entire picture, without having a vision of what the entire puzzle is, you're never going to finish it. Or worse yet, you're going to realize halfway through that there's pieces that are missing. That's exactly how businesses end up with broken systems. They're focused on solving the problem in isolation, more leads, better messaging, a new funnel, without realizing those solutions don't exist in a vacuum. So when you take a bird's eye view, you're able to spot patterns and gaps. You're not just focused on one problem. Instead, you're seeing how all the pieces interact. So for example, you might realize that your leads aren't converting, not because your sales team isn't good, but because the messaging they're receiving earlier in the funnel doesn't align with the final offer. Now, the second piece is that you need to prioritize strategically. So instead of putting out fires, you're working on what's actually going to move the needle for your entire business. The bird's eye view lets you see where to focus your time, your energy, and your resources for maximum ROIs. That means no more wasting time on the wrong thing only to find out that it was the wrong thing too late, okay? The third thing is that it builds your confidence, because when you approach your client acquisition holistically, you're not just crossing your fingers hoping that it works, right? You know that each part of your system is going to support the other, making the whole far more effective than just its parts. This means that the first step in creating a sales ecosystem that guarantees your ROI, that means not just throwing time, money, and energy away, is understanding how to take a bird's eye view of your business. So with my clients, I want you to understand we work together to look at the entire client acquisition process. It is not, hey, let's work on your messaging, but not everything else. It's we're going to look at every single piece of the puzzle. So example, we start by developing their gold standard client profile so that we can identify their buyer DNA. That is step one. Step two, we look at their messaging system to see if it's speaking directly to that DNA. Then we look at how effective is their positioning. Does it allow gold standard clients to instantly understand why you're the only and incomparable solution? Then is your marketing system set up to help your high intent buyers make decisions? And are you addressing those high value demand angles, AKA buying triggers in your market? Then is your sales system finally set up to create a bingeable decision process where you're proactively identifying and mirroring their natural decision process? And then lastly, does your sales conversion system build on the demand that your marketing and sales process created to create this full circle experience? Because the reality is they all have to work together. So if I change my messaging, it needs to also apply to my positioning, to my sales system, to my marketing system, to everything in the process. So yes, your messaging is important, but knowing how each of those pieces work together like a well-oiled machine, like an engine, is where we get out of being the handyman in our business, where we get out of just trying to plug one hole at a time only for another hole to pop a leak. Okay? Without a bird's eye view that addresses that growth holistically, you're constantly taking shots in the dark and solving problems as they come up. This is not ideal, and it's extremely costly, both financially and timely. I've watched far too many businesses spend countless months or years or hundreds of thousands of dollars, all because they didn't have a bird's eye view, which kept them in this cycle of building. So how do you solve this, right? We've talked a little bit about holistic framework, but simply put, we're not building a funnel. We're creating an ecosystem. And there's a huge difference. One where people can navigate step by step to quickly and effectively have their individualized buying needs addressed until they're ready to say yes. And the best part, it works regardless of what phase of business you're in. Okay. If your goal is to create a predictable process that allows you to sign your first or next 10 clients, your ecosystem is built to meet you where you're at. Now, if you're an established business that's looking to scale, your ecosystem evolves to support that growth while maintaining stability. So here's how it looks in practice, okay? So for our clients who are scaling, we develop a single holistic framework encompassing the 5 systems of scaling. Number 1 is the messaging system. Number 2 is the positioning system. Number 3 is your marketing system. Number 4 is your sales system. And number 5 is your delivery system. Now, these 5 systems ensure that your business isn't just acquiring clients, but retaining them and creating repeat customers. Now, by addressing each layer cohesively, we create stability, scalability, and future-proof growth. So for our growth clients, the focus is a little bit more narrow. So those 5 systems are all focused on when you're ready to scale. But for our growth clients, the focus is a little bit more narrow, because at this phase, the goal is simply to create and sustain demand by dialing in on messaging, positioning, a simplified marketing, and a sales conversation system. See, this approach allows us to target the key pieces that are going to allow your business to grow without any unnecessary complexity. So yes, if you've worked with coaches, you've signed on for programs, but you've built all the pieces, but can't seem to figure out why it's still not working, it starts because you first need to develop a holistic framework. That's why whether we work with our growth clients to build a demand system inside of our Growth Bridge program, or when we work with our scaling clients to help them develop and build high profit scaling systems inside our Sustainable Profit Academy or one-to-one, we always take a holistic approach. That means you're not going to see me telling you that we only need to fix one piece of the puzzle. We're always going to look at how do all the pieces play nice together? How do they all work together to drive that so that you actually have an engine that works, and it guarantees that it works. We use compounding validation. See, the biggest and most costly mistake businesses make is that they don't actually validate each piece as they build. So our approach does just that. We focus on building the pieces sequentially. So, what we would do, for example, is start with messaging. We're going to first optimize your messaging. And once it's complete, often within weeks, we go ahead and apply it. Now, we're going to wait until we get a result from it first before we add the next piece on top of it. What this does is it guarantees our results and the fastest ROI possible. Because, yes, it's amazing when a whole system is up and running and working together as an engine, but you should also be seeing immediate results when you apply each piece of the puzzle. So I want you to think of compounding validation like constructing a skyscraper. You don't start by decorating the top floors, right? You lay the foundation, you reinforce it as you build higher, and each level is meticulously designed to support the one above it. So by the time you're adding the final touches, the entire structure is solid and is capable of weathering anything. See, without this approach, businesses are like houses built on a shifting sand, right? They're constantly chasing the next fix. They're patching cracks and they're wondering why they're never standing on solid ground. Simply put, this should be the standard, not the anomaly. You should be building a holistic strategy. You should be applying each piece, getting a result from it before you add the next piece on top of it, creating compounding results and the fastest ROI possible. This is just one facet of the EZS method and how we do things differently because we approach business growth holistically. That's why I'll be the first one to tell you that the answer to getting easy yeses is in understanding the three core pillars of growth. Number one is your innovative advantage. If you want a successful business that grows and scales year after year, you need an advantage in the market. Because a business that's built on constantly chasing attention and clients is set up to fail. That's why before pouring more resources into marketing and sales, you first need to be able to understand how to win the market and become the only and incomparable solution so that your gold standard clients come running to you. This is how you create a true market of one. And it's how our clients have landed on TEDx stages, bestseller lists, or simply 5 to 10x their prices and had clients lining up to work with them. Together, we develop your innovative gap methodology, your blue ocean that's all encapsulated into a fully articulated innovative method. Next, and only once we have this set, we create a bingeable decision system that amplifies your method. The truth is, people love buying, but instead of you selling your leads, you need your leads to sell themselves. That's why our bingeable decision system uses the Netflix effect to mirror the natural decision process your buyers naturally go through inside your marketing and sales system. The results? Clients are buying in 90% less time, and they're able to binge their way to an easy yes. No more convincing. Your leads are actually selling themselves. And the final step is how legacies are made, because successful businesses aren't just masters of marketing, they're truly skilled experts who deliver incredible results. That's why the third pillar of the EZS method is focused on how to actually build a scalable, happy client machine. So this is the step that's focused on creating a delivery system that truly creates world-class results for your clients without being fully dependent upon you. This isn't about just building a course or a fancy group program. It's about going deeper and understanding the psychology of client results. This is the power behind the EZS method. And if you're listening and know that your success is not optional and you're ready to have a holistic approach that just works to get leads to sell themselves and applies that applies our compounding validation process so you see the fastest ROI possible, I want to invite you to book a growth optimization call with me. This call will allow you and I to sit down, evaluate your current process for acquiring and retaining clients, and I'll show you exactly where your optimization points are. And if we believe that we can get you results, I'll share with you how the EZS method can support your growth and scaling goals for decades to come. So head on over to easyesleads.com/call to book your call now. Now, if you're new around here, first of all, let me take a quick moment to welcome you here. We're so excited to have you. If you want to learn a little bit more about how the Netflix effect works to get your leads to sell themselves with our 3-step system, you can check out our free private mini series that details exactly how this works by heading on over to thenetflixeffect.com. Now, as always, we love and appreciate if you could just take a quick moment to rate, subscribe, and share this episode because we are on a mission to help more experts like you create a movement that changes the world with their expertise. But until next time, here's to keeping it real.